I'm very honored and happy to be here. Sitting at the lotus feet of Radha Gopinath and amidst all of you. So in the next few days we'll discuss on the topic of appreciating Gaudiya Vaishnavism. Let us begin with some prayers. Om Jnana-Tindarasya Jnana-Jnana Chakshur-Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Namo Vishnu-padaya Krishna-prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti-Vedanta Swami-iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Sahitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta-vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Krishna Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. So today I'll discuss on the topic of appreciating Gaudiya Vaishnavism, as I mentioned. I'll talk about this primarily based on the 8th chapter of the Madhya Leela of HGCaitanyaCharanPr, which is the conversation between Lord Chaitanya and Ramananda Rai. Is there an echo behind? Am I clear? Or can we increase the volume a little? Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Is it better now? Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. Am I audible behind now? Okay. Okay, please keep it like this now. Don't change it. I think this is good. Am I audible behind? So, let's begin first with the term Gaudiya Vaishnavism. What does it mean? Vaishnavism, if you look at some dictionary or some encyclopedia, it is considered as one of the many belief systems in the world. It is a belief system which holds that Vishnu is supreme. And like that, people may say there are many different belief systems. There is Shaktism, there is Shaivism, there are so many isms like that. However, this is a superficial understanding, because when we look at the word Vishnu, the word Vishnu has many meanings, but one of the simplest ways of understanding the meaning is one who is in every anu of the Vishwa. जो विश्व के हर अणु में है उनको विष्णु कहते हैं. So he is the one supreme being who is all pervading. He is the absolute truth. So he may be referred to in different traditions by different names. And it is that one supreme being, he is being worshipped in Vaishnavism. The world's great religions, or the world's belief systems, are often divided into two broad categories. There is monotheism and there is polytheism. Monotheism, mono means one, theism is belief in God. So monotheism is belief in one God, whereas polytheism is belief in many gods. Some people think that the Abrahamic religions, Judaism, Christianity, Islam, are monotheistic. And people think of Hinduism often as polytheistic. However, these categories themselves, monotheism and polytheism, they have derived from a very Western-centric frame of reference. And if we consider the Vedic conception of God, it does not fit into these very cut and dry, very categorical systems. Why is that? Because in the Vedic tradition, we understand there is one God, but that one God doesn't manifest in one form alone. Advaitam Achyutam Anadim Ananta Rupam. The Brahma Samhita says that one Lord is Advaita, is not different, but he manifests in Ananta Rupa. He is not just one, he is in many forms. So, the Vedic understanding of God is actually neither. So, polytheism, there are many gods, monotheism, there is only one God. But the Vedic understanding is there is one God who manifests in many forms. So, if we are to use this Greco-Roman terminology, then a more precise term for the Vedic understanding of God will be polymorphic monotheism. You know, morpha is form. So polymorphic is one who manifests in many forms. Polymorphic monotheism. One God manifesting in many forms. And actually even that is not complete. Because if we look at the conception of God, there is the conception of God the Father in the Abrahamic religions. But in the Vedic tradition, God manifests always as a divine couple. So we have Sita Ram, we have Radha Krishna, we have Lakshmi Narayan, and both of them are considered divine. Both of them are manifestations of the same divinity. Radha Krishna ek atma dui tanadhari anyonyanya atma lila vilasa kari. Chaitanya Charitamrita says Radha Krishna, they are ek atma, they are one soul who is manifested in two forms. And by manifesting in two forms, they relish lila, they relish pastimes. So in that sense, actually this is monotheism, but that one God manifests as a couple. So it is, if you want to be more precise, it is polymorphic bi-monotheism. It is not polymorphic monotheism, and monotheism, but that one God manifests in two forms. And actually, going further, we see that in the Abrahamic religion there is the idea of one supreme God, and then everyone else is a false God. That any other person who is being worshipped apart from that one God is a false God. And that's why many times in these Abrahamic religions, if a religious conqueror conquers a kingdom, the first thing they will do is they will go and destroy all the false gods. They will bash up the idols in the temples, because their idea is to establish the glory of the one true God. All the other false gods need to be pushed down. But the Vedic understanding is there is one God, but he has many representatives. And those representatives do cosmic administrative functions on his behalf, and those representatives can also act as intermediate objects of worship. So the Devatas in the Vedic tradition, they are representatives of the Supreme Lord, appointed by him. So they are not false gods. They are true beings, and they have true powers. That they are transitional means so that people can ultimately come to the worship of the Supreme Being Vishnu. So actually it is, so in that sense, there is one Supreme, but there are various levels by which people can reach the Supreme. So the Vedic understanding of God will be multi-level, polymorphic, bi-monotheism. So, multi-level, polymorphic, bi-monotheism. This is actually a very sophisticated and very deep conception of God. The point of, if we don't want to talk about big terms here, the principle underlying it is that God makes His mercy available in many ways. It is not, this is the only way you have to follow, and only then God's mercy is available. No, yes, God manifests in many forms. Yad diyat urgaya vibhavayanti tattad vapuh praniyase sadanugrahaya. The Srimad Bhagavatam says that because different devotees have different desires, and whichever form a devotee desires to worship the Lord in, yad diyat urgaya vibhavayanti, when desires to worship the Supreme and Glorious Lord, tattad vapuh praniyase, that the Lord manifests in that form. Why? Sadanugrahaya, out of His mercy for all the souls, for especially those souls who are seeking the absolute truth. And so now, when we talk about Vaishnavism, it is not a sectarian belief system. It is the worship of the one Supreme Being who is talked about in the various religious traditions, and that one Supreme Being is revealed in a very profound and profoundly accessible way to people at multiple levels. So this is Vaishnavism. So Vaishnavism is multi-level polymorphic bimonotheism. And what is Gaudiya? Gaudiya, this word has an external meaning and it has an internal meaning. So external, it is usually thought of as referring to Gaudadesh. That was the place where Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared. That is in the Bengal area, more or less on the associated with the plains of the Ganga in that area. So Vaishnavism, the worship of Vishnu, was practiced in various parts of the country. But when that Vaishnavism was practiced in Gaudadesh, it is called as Gaudiya Vaishnavism. That is the external meaning of the word Gaudiya. That it is a geographical indicator of origin, Gaudiya. But the word Gaudiya also has another origin. Okay, Gaudiya as a word can derive from Gauda, which is a geographical area, and Gaudiya as a word can derive also from Guda. Guda means jaggery. So there is jaggery in various parts of traditional India. Jaggery is there everywhere, but it is said that the jaggery that is available in Bengal is considered especially sweet. So Gaudiya Vaishnavism in that sense means that Vaishnavism is specially sweet. So that sweetness is a result of the merciful revelations of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu when he descended to this world. So what is this special sweetness that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu manifested? That is what we will discuss in different ways in the 3 sessions that we will have. Now, the word Gaudiya Vaishnavism is in this way pregnant with a lot of philosophical import. And this import is revealed in the HGCaitanyaCharanPr through primarily conversations. The HGCaitanyaCharanPr is a book written by Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, who is a prominent biographer and theologian in the Gaudiya Vaishnava tradition. So this book is often thought of as a biography. Biography is written of illustrious persons so that their memories and their glories can be remembered by future generations. And when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared around 500 years ago, he lived for a short while, only 48 years. But during those 48 years, he created such an impression on thousands, millions of people that within just a couple of decades of his departure, 27 different biographies were written. And among them, the most prominent and the last biography that was written was Sri HGCaitanyaCharanPr. And this biography is different from all other biographies in that this is not just a narrative of the events of the life. Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami was a very specially empowered soul. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's shared Vaishnavism primarily in 3 places. Bengal was the place where he was born and he lived for the first 24 years of his life. That is the first place. The second place was Orissa in Jagannath Puri, where he lived for the last 18 years of his life. And the third place where Gaudiya Vaishnavism had strong roots was Vrindavan, where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had sent his prominent followers, the 6 Goswamis, Shri Goswamis. They had situated themselves in Vrindavan and they wrote books over there. So, the books, now among these 3 places, the literary tradition was the strongest in Vrindavan. Vrindavan was already a very sacred place and there was a tradition of scholarship over there. So in Vrindavan, the books that were written were primarily by the Goswamis. They were about, not Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, but about Radha Krishna. And they were primarily philosophical books. Philosophical books and books about the pastimes. And the books that were written in Bengal were in Bengali, and they were primarily biographical books written by the Bengali Vaishnavas. Now, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami was born in Bengal, then he went to Vrindavan. So since childhood he had heard the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya. He drank in that culture. Then he went to Vrindavan and he was trained under Goswamis in the philosophy. And then he brought the philosophy and the pastimes together in one book. And that book is HGCaitanyaCharanPr. HGCaitanyaCharanPr is practically the only book in Bengali literature. The book is in Bengali and it has a Sanskrit commentary to it. Normally there are Sanskrit books and vernacular language commentaries to it. But this book was so important that Vishwanath Chakravarti wrote a Sanskrit commentary on it. Unfortunately, the commentary is no longer available. It is lost. But suffice it to say, it was a very important book. And normally, if we read, say, Srimad Bhagavatam, then the normal tendency is, if you are reading some stories, you want to see what is happening in the story. And if some prayers start coming up, which are quite complex, philosophical, then what we do? Fast forward. Skip the page and go ahead. So, now, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami in Chaitanya Charitamrita does the exact opposite. Wherever there is a story, he does fast forward. And wherever there is a philosophical discussion, he slows down the action. And he goes deep into the philosophical discussions. So in that sense, Chaitanya Charitamrita is not just a biography. It is actually a book of theology. It is a book of philosophy in the format of a biography. So he narrates linearly the life of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But whenever Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has any important philosophical discussions, whereas the other biographies just briefly describe the outline of events, where here Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami goes deep into the discussions. And in this way, he integrates the pastimes from the Bengali Vaishnavas and the philosophy from the Goswamis together in one book. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has many celebrated philosophical conversations. And among these conversations, there are conversations which lead to transformation. These conversations Chaitanya Mahaprabhu fall in three broad categories. One which is in the form of debates. So we had two famous debates. One was with Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, the first major debate after he manifested himself as a devotee. That happened when he came from Navadvip, where he had lived, and then he had taken sannyas. He came to Puri. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu till then he just been a famous scholar, but primarily restricted to Bengal. And then he came out to Jagannath Puri, and Jagannath Puri, among the greatest scholars at that time was Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, what did he do? In his first meeting itself, he had such an amazing conversation with Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. And Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya was not just defeated, but Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya was transformed. He didn't just accept defeat, he became a follower of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He became a devotee of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So, to give a contemporary example from cricket, there is some player who plays in local league. Suddenly he gets first opportunity to play in an international match. And international match is the world's best bowler. And against the world's best bowler, he hit 6 sixes in 6 balls. It was breaking news everywhere. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu achieved a stunning success. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya was the biggest scholar of those times, and this Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was, he was okay, he was well known in his own area, but nothing beyond that. His first entry, it was stunning what he did. So that is described in the Madhya Leela in the 6th chapter. And then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, now I am going to go to South India. So Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya tells Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that there is a great scholar in South India. I did not appreciate him earlier, but now, by your mercy, I have appreciated him. And you will relish his association with you. His name is Ramananda. Please meet him. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu leaves for South India tour. That brief outline is described in the 7th chapter. The 8th chapter describes his meeting with Ramananda in the Madhya Leela. And then after that, so I'll come back to this once again. So the conversation with Ramananda is not a debate. It's a discussion. So debate is where two people have opposite views and they try to present their own views. So his conversation with Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya was a debate. And like that he has one more debate which is described in the 25th chapter of the Madhya Leela of Chaitanya Charitamrita. That debate was with Prakashanand Saraswati in Varanasi. So Varanasi at that time was the capital of the Mayavadis. So it was Prabhupada said, Varanasi is the Vrindavan of the Mayavadis. So what Vrindavan is for the Vaishnavas, Varanasi is for the Mayavadis. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went there, and there he transformed Prakashananda Saraswati. So after Chaitanya Mahaprabhu met Prakashananda Saraswati and they discussed together, then Prakashananda Saraswati understood truly what is Prakash, what is Anand, and what is the blessing of Saraswati. So again, this was dramatic, and going into the headquarters of the Mayavad and defeating the biggest Mayavad. So again, go back to cricket example. India-Pakistan is a big rivalry. So if an Indian team goes to Pakistan, say to Islamabad or Lahore, or capital of Pakistan, there defeats Pakistan. So something like that. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu single-handedly did that. So there was these two debates in which Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had dramatic success. Then there were two big other philosophical conversations. Those are his instructions. So he gave one set of instructions to Rupa Goswami and another to Sanatana Goswami. So the instructions to Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami are described in the same Madhya Lila from the 19th chapter to the 24th chapters. So there are three levels of conversations. One is the debate, in which there are two conversations with Sarvabhattacharya and Prakashananda Saraswati. There are two other philosophical discussions. They are instructions, where Rupa Goswami primarily asking and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is instructing. And the third is a discussion. That is between Ramananda Rai and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And this is very special because there are many roles that are reversed in this discussion. So to understand about this role reversal, we need to understand a little bit of the history, the historical context in which these discussions took place. Krishna discusses in the Bhagavad Gita, Chatur Varane Maya Srishtam Gunakarma Vibhavashaha, that there are 4 divisions of society, and these are done according to Guna Karma, according to quality and activity. And the idea of division of society is primarily facilitation of individual growth. It is, the division of society is for facilitation of individual growth. So different people have different natures, different people have different talents, different people have different interests. And if people's interests are identified and they are given the facilities to grow according to their interests. If somebody is intellectual, that person is provided intellectual education. If somebody is an administrator, that person is provided administrative education. Some person is a merchant, that person is provided mercantile education. A person is an artisan, that person is provided artisan education. Then these people can develop in their fields and they can make optimum contribution to society. So Varnashram was primarily for a system of division of labor for facilitation of individual growth according to one's own talents and abilities. But over time, the system became stratified. Now within the system, genealogy, one's family of birth, that is important. But that is not all important. Now why is it important? And I consider if there's a family in which the mother and father both are doctors. And if they have a child, and if the child wants to become a doctor, that child will have a head start as compared to others in whose family there are no doctors. Because from the childhood that will come up. So, if a child has that particular upbringing, and if the child has that particular talent, if there is a synergy of upbringing and innate talent, then the growth can be much faster. And there is a further science over here. Now, how do we get children? It is not just by chance. It is explained that actually there is a principle of psychological attraction that underlies physical procreation. Physical procreation is not just a biological activity. It's at a biological level. The man and the woman, the seed and the egg, they unite together, an embryo is formed and the baby is formed. It is at a biological level. But along with that, there is a further dimension. The embryo is not just a lump of flesh. There is a soul which enters into it. And the kind of soul that enters at the time of conception, that is determined by the principle of psychological attraction. That means the kind of psychologies, the kind of levels of consciousness that the mother and the father have, then they will attract a soul of a similar psychological disposition. So for example, if the mother and the father, say both are intellectuals, it's a Brahman and a Brahmani, if they unite, then a soul of a similar psychological disposition, that means a soul who in a previous life also had intellectual inclinations, that soul will be attracted. So in that sense, when the tradition was followed, there was a fair likelihood that a child of a Brahmana would be a Brahmana. A child of a Kshatriya and a Kshatrayani would be of a Kshatriya disposition. So, genealogy was a fair predictor of mentality, but it was not the sole determiner of mentality. Genealogy was a fair predictor, but over time, things became stratified and the dogma came in that those who are born in Brahmana families, they are automatically Brahmanas. And so those who are born in Shudra families, they are unchangeably Shudras. Now this is not the original Vedic understanding. The purpose was not to label someone, the purpose was not to demean someone, the purpose was not to permanently enthrone some people in power. The purpose was actually to facilitate people's individual growth. And if we see the Bhakti tradition, well, it was actually a strong expression of dissatisfaction and even rebellion against this caste orthodoxy. So many of the Bhakti saints were from lower castes, and the Brahmanas who had power in the traditional social structure, they felt threatened by the Vaishnavas, by the saints, especially when they came from the lower traditions. So the idea is, why did the Brahmanas feel threatened? Say for example, if there are devotees who are chanting the holy names, and if they are chanting the holy name and people experience God, people feel very spiritual, joyful, people go close to God just by chanting of the holy names, then the Smarta Brahmanas at that time, the word Smarta, it is not related with the English word smart. The word smart, actually it comes from the word Smriti, but it doesn't mean only something is based on Smriti. It means those who follow Smriti literally only to the letter. They follow the letter of the law without understanding the spirit of the law. The Smarta Brahmins, they had the idea that without us, no one can approach God. And if anybody else, if any person, any bhakta who is not from a Brahman caste, that person claims that, okay, by chanting, by singing, by worshipping, you can go close to God. This is a heresy. This is a deviation. And by this, the Brahmanas, because they had access to God, or so they believed, so they had a lot of control over people by that. So for example, if somebody has to perform some sacrifice, say somebody has got a new house, somebody has got started a new profession or whatever, they want to invoke auspiciousness. Then the Bhakti saints would say, you don't have to do any elaborate rituals. Krishna also says this. Just with a devotional heart you offer what you are doing. So Bhakti saints just chant the holy names, worship God, pray to God, and devote yourself to God. So Bhakti made spirituality very easy, very accessible. But then many of the priests felt, then we become redundant, isn't it? Then people don't need us to perform rituals, people don't need us to come and invoke auspiciousness, and most importantly, then people will not give us dakshina. So because of this, the Brahmanical orthodoxy often very strongly opposed and even suppressed the bhaktas. So sometimes when people don't understand the subtle differences, people sometimes label Indians, you have this discriminatory caste system, and because of this, so many people are suffering. Well, yes, there was a discriminatory caste system, but that is not the original system, it is a deviation of that system. And further, within the Indian tradition itself, there was a very strong tradition of reform from within. And the Bhakti tradition is actually a tradition of reform, where what Bhakti does is, Bhakti universalizes spirituality. That anybody who approaches God with a devotional heart, that person, whatever qualification that person has, it doesn't matter from the material perspective. God is concerned with the state of our heart. He is not concerned with the state of our ancestry. Who are our ancestors? God is not concerned with that. He is concerned with the state of our heart. And this is demonstrated by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in many different ways. But that is demonstrated most dramatically in the pastime with Ramananda. So, how did Chaitanya Mahaprabhu demonstrate it? In various ways. For example, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had Haridas Thakur, who was born not just in a lower caste family, but he was born in what was called an outcast family. He was born actually in a Muslim family. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said he has such devotion, such complete surrender to the chanting of the holy names, that he not only chants it devotedly, he is actually the teacher of the chanting of the holy names. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu called it the Namacharya. Nam Acharya, the person who can teach the whole world about the glories of the holy name. Similarly, there are many other associates of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu who were from the lower caste. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he embraced them, he cherished them, he glorified them. At the same time, every reform has to be done within a particular social context. And one has to be sensitive to the nuances of that place. So, there is sensitivity and there is compromise. And these two are different. So, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself, at that time there was a prevailing dogma in Jagannath temple that only those people who are born in Hindu families, they can enter Jagannath. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did not disturb it. He's God, he was himself an influential saint at that time. He could have, if he insisted, he could have allowed Haridas Thakur to come. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, whenever we live in this world, we have to choose our battles. We cannot fight everyone at the same time. So some things we focus on, some things we downplay. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's focus was, in this yuga, the primary dharma is the chanting of the holy names. The primary dharma is the glorification of the Lord. And if that is made universally accessible, and that is demonstrated unambiguously as being universally accessible, that is what is important. And in subsequent generations, subsequent acharyas did more things. And Srila Prabhupada's temples where everyone can come, everyone can worship the Lord. And so, according to time, place, circumstance, even Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he may not fight all the battles at the same time. So there is sensitivity, so he was sensitive to the Brahminical orthodoxy at that time. And he did not disturb them too much. But at the same time, he did not compromise. He did not say that, oh, Haridas Thakur can't chant the holy names. He can not only chant, he can teach everyone the chanting of the holy names. So just as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu glorified Haridas Thakur in a very special way by declaring him to be Namacharya, he glorified Ramananda Rai in another way. And that was, Ramananda Rai from the external perspective was born in a Shudra family. So there, among the four varnas, Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra. Shudra is the lowest. And he was also a Grihastha. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was born in the Brahmana family and he was a sannyasi. So there is a social hierarchy and there is a spiritual hierarchy. And the purpose of all this is progressive spiritual elevation. So the idea is that those who are sannyasis, they have renounced the world, they have focused their lives fully on God. They have more time to study scripture, they have more time to purify themselves. And with the knowledge and realization that they have got, they can share it with the world. And for them to share it, the rest of the society gives them appropriate respect. So sannyasis, those who are renouncers, they are appreciated, respected in the spiritual culture. At the same time, renunciation is not higher than devotion. Actually, renunciation is a means to devotion. So sometimes if somebody becomes renounced and the person becomes very proud of one's renunciation, then that pride can actually be an enemy of devotion. And somebody who is not renounced may actually be more advanced. So many times devotees may fast on Ekadashis. And fasting is good as austerity. It can purify us, it can intensify our remembrance of Krishna. But suppose we are fasting on Ekadashi and then we go and see who is eating what. And we think, this person, no sense control. This person, glutton. This person is hopeless. So, if we are passing judgment at everyone else, then our body may be fasting, but our ego is feasting. And our ego is feasting like that. Actually, we are not making any spiritual advancement by that kind of austerity. So, the purpose of austerity is to increase one's remembrance of Krishna, to intensify, to facilitate the intensification of our devotion. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu demonstrated this principle in this pastime. So, he was sannyasi and Ramananda Rai was a grahastha. And normally sannyasis will give instruction to grahasthas. And the classic example of this is in the Srimad Bhagavatam, where Parikshit Maharaj, who is a king, a grahastha, and Shukadeva Goswami is a renunciate, sannyasi. He instructs for 7 days. That is how the normal flow of knowledge happens. But significantly, within this same Srimad Bhagavatam, whereas Srimad Bhagavatam at one level conforms to tradition, at the same time the Srimad Bhagavatam also transcends tradition. In the sense that the normal hierarchy, as I said, is grahasthas are, sannyasis are considered higher than grahasthas. Brahmanas are considered higher than the other varnas. But the Bhagavatam itself contains many stories where this normal hierarchy is inverted. So, for example, there is the story of Ambarish Maharaj and Durvasa Muni. Durvasa Muni is a sannyasi and he is a Brahmana. So, both Varna and Ashram, he is higher than Ambarish Maharaj, who is a Grahastha and a Kshatriya. But Ambarish Maharaj has greater devotion. And what happens? The Durvasa Muni, he realizes that when he offends Ambarish Maharaj, he cannot protect himself by his own power. He cannot protect himself even by invoking the power of the great gods, which is Brahma and Shiva. He cannot protect himself even by invoking the power of Vishnu. He has to come back and beg forgiveness from Ambarish Maharaj. So the Bhagavatam demonstrates this time and again. So not just Varna and Ashram, there is the pastime of the Yajnik Brahmanas. They are very knowledgeable, learned Brahmanas, but they get so caught in their learning that they forget the purpose of their learning. That is devotion to God. And their wives remember that. And their wives are considered greater than them. So normally in traditional culture, the wife is to work cooperatively with the husband. But when the husband is not devoted, here Bhagavatam shows that the wives are more advanced than the husband. And not just within the human level. The Bhagavatam inverts the hierarchy even in the cosmic levels. Normally the Devatas are good and the Asuras are bad. But there is the pastime of Uttarasur fighting with Indra. When Indra is attached, Indra is possessive, Indra is manipulating. And Uttarasur is detached, Uttarasur is devoted. And Indra is thinking, I don't want to lose my kingdom. And Uttarasur tells him, I want to lose my kingdom. I want to lose my body so that I can go back to God. So Indra is stunned. Is this Asura? Is this a Mahabharata? So, where there is devotion, all other hierarchies are inverted. Devotion trumps all other hierarchies. And that is demonstrated time and time again in the Bhagavatam. And that is demonstrated again by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in this particular pastime. So, among all these pastimes also, we will see that there is no place where the Yajnik Brahman Patnis don't directly instruct their husbands. They just do the right thing. It's even Durvasa Muni is not instructed by Ambarish Maharaj. Uttarasur speaks some words of inspiration, call for action to Indra. It's not philosophical instruction. But this is the only pastime where the normal hierarchy is inverted, not just inverted in a temporary change, but actually the instruction flows in the opposite direction. That means Chaitanya Mahaprabhu instructs Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu convinces Prakashananda Saraswati and Sarvam Bhattacharya. But here that same Chaitanya Mahaprabhu receives instructions from Ramananda Rai. And that is what makes this pastime astonishing. There is the inversion of the hierarchy, but not just because of a temporary offense for a short time. It is the whole inversion of the flow of knowledge itself. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, a sannyasi and a grahastha, receives knowledge from Ramananda Rai, who is a sannyasi and a brahmana. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu receives instruction from Ramananda Rai, who is a shudra and a grahastha. So the hierarchies, whatever are there, they are not meant for discrimination. They are not meant for labeling. They are not meant for putting people down. Now in today's society, we may not have so many hierarchies, so the labels might not be there. And that is good. The labeling, when it happens, then people just pass huge blanket value judgments just based on one label. So Srila Prabhupada was very visionary in this. Now he recognized that people essentially are souls, wherever they may be. And inspired the soul, whoever it was, wherever it was, that you should practice bhakti. So when Srila Prabhupada started the International Society for Krishna Consciousness in America at that time there was the prevailing racism over there. It was coming out of it. But still civil rights movement had just happened in the 1960s and some amount of racism was there. So there were mostly white Americans who became devotees. Some African Americans also became devotees. So one of them, the leader among them was HGCaitanyaCharanPr, who later became Bhakti Maharaj. And he, in one sense, inverted hierarchy at that time. Because most of the white Americans who had joined the Hare Krishna movement, they were spiritually oriented to some extent. Some of them had even gone to India in search of God. Some of them were hippies. But none of them were really very well educated. Whereas Bhakti Maharaj, he had a degree from Princeton. And practically at that time, we might well have been the most educated person in the whole movement. And the white devotee just couldn't digest this idea. He is also a devotee, he is so well educated. And he faced some racial discrimination. So he went to Srila Prabhupada and told us, Prabhupada, Krishna consciousness is meant to be transcendental, but there is this, I am facing racism over it. So Srila Prabhupada did not deny it. Srila Prabhupada did not chastise him. Srila Prabhupada just told him, if this racism or any kind of ism, it all comes from the body. So if they are seeing you at the level of the body, and if you let yourself feel discriminated because of that, then how is your consciousness higher than theirs? So rather than trying to have a social reform where trying to remove racism, Prabhupada said, raise your consciousness. If people may look at you as that is you are a body and the body is of a particular color, you remember you are a soul, and you are as a soul beyond the body. And as he kept doing this, as he felt, so basically Prabhupada told him, they may be acting at the level of ignorance, you don't respond at the level of ignorance. You act in the light of knowledge. So he felt vindicated that Prabhupada understands me, Prabhupada values me, Prabhupada cares for me as a devotee. And then he started practicing bhakti so enthusiastically and he did such wonderful services that eventually everyone recognized his spiritual quality. And then the color of the skin became insignificant. So this principle that the devotion of the heart is what is more important. Most important in fact. That is central in the process of bhakti. And the cultural differences, it's not that they are insignificant. They play their role, but they should not play the decisive role. Even in Gaudiya Vaishnavism traditionally, if we see the way Gaudiya Vaishnavism developed in Orissa and the way it developed in Bengal, there are some differences. The devotees perform kirtan in slightly different ways. They worship the deities in slightly different ways. And one major difference was that at that time Bengal was ruled by Muslims. Orissa was ruled by a Hindu king, Prataprudra, whereas Bengal was ruled by Nawab Hussain Shah, was a tyrannical Muslim ruler. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he did not tell any of his disciples at that time to build temples in Bengal. Because at that time building temples was not practical. So he told them perform Harinam Sankirtan. On the other hand, Rupa and Sanatana Goswami, they had acted as ministers in Nawab Hussain Shah's ministry. And then they renounced the world. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu told them to go to Vrindavan. Now, although Vrindavan was very close to Delhi, which was the seat of the imperial throne of the Mughals at that time, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu knew that Rupa and Sanatana Goswami would have the diplomatic expertise to manage with the powers at Delhi. And he asked them, there you construct temples. So, according to time, place, and circumstances, in different ways, the same bhakti tradition can be expressed. So even today, in the Middle East, there is a thriving devotee community. But they cannot build any temples, they cannot have any public expression of their religion. So what they do is, they have lot of programs but all in-house. So even Rath Yatra is inside a hall. So inside a hall, they will have jubilant Rath Yatra. Biggest hall they will get and they will perform Rath Yatra as well. So the principle is, bhakti cannot and should not be limited by anything material. Material things may restrict particular forms of bhakti. But the principle of bhakti is that the soul longs to love and serve Krishna. And that principle cannot be checked by anything or anyone. So the soul longs to love and serve Krishna, and that soul's longing will express itself in different ways according to different time, place, circumstances. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he saw how Ramananda had this great devotion, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu heard from him. So how did this pastime happen? So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu on a South India tour came to the place called Kavu, and there on the banks of Kaveri river, and there he was sitting absorbed in thoughts of Krishna, and suddenly he saw some person coming over there, and this person saw, okay, he was followed by many Brahmins and many other followers. So then Mahaprabhu was absorbed in Krishna, he was also observing what is happening. And this person, he was actually Ramananda Rai. He was the governor of that area, of Madras area. And he had courtiers with him, he had Brahmins with him. The Brahmins were reciting Vedic hymns. And as he was coming along, he had come to the Godavari river at that time. It was there in that area. He had come there for bathing. And as he was bathing, he saw Chaitanya Mahaprabhu over there. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu saw him. And they had never met each other before. And yet, there was a mystical connection between them. It was as if their legs moved on their own and they ran towards each other. And flouting all social norms, they just embraced each other. All the people were stunned. Normally, from both perspectives, you could either see it from the socio-political perspective or you could see it from the religious spiritual perspective. The socio-political perspective, some unknown person doesn't go and embrace the king. Your excellency, you offer respects, very deferentially you deal with the king. So they were wondering, Ramananda is the king over here, particularly he was the governor, the representative of Pratap Rudra, who was the emperor of that, who was the king of that area. So he was a big person. And who is unknown sannyasi, who is unknown monk, sitting in one place. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, although he was a great saint, but he was traveling South India, he chose intentionally to adopt a very low profile. What does that mean? He did not have a single associate with him. Now sometimes somebody comes along, then there are 10 people ahead, 10 people behind, then everybody thinks this must be a big person who is coming. Isn't it? There's nothing wrong if that is what is required for a service. It's not necessarily a sign of ego or anything like that. It is just that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, while traveling here, he chose a very low profile. So, the point here is that that's why the people thought, who is this? There are so many sannyasis over there, he's also a sannyasi. How is he having the temerity to go and embrace the king like this? The head of the state like this? And then the others who were a little more caste conscious, they said, no, he is a Shudra. He should bow down to a sannyasi. He touches feet. He is not meant to embrace a sannyasi. What is he doing? And they were observing, it's one thing two people embrace each other. But Yes, they keep embracing, and they keep embracing. And they were watching, and not only they embracing, both of them, tears started flowing from their eyes. Tears were going on and on. Everybody was bewildered. What is happening? Just, they got a culture shock. Just couldn't figure out anything. Their intellect got short-circuited. And they were wondering what is going on. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu embraced Ramananda Rai, and he said that actually when I left Jagannath Puri, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya insisted that I should come and meet you. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also recognized, he said such a person is coming with so many followers, he must be the head of the state. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu recognized, he must be Ramananda. And Ramananda Rai had also heard about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu because his fame after he had transformed Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya had spread far and wide. So he had also heard about him. Oh, you must be Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And both of them recognized each other and they started talking. He said, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya told me, normally when two people meet often, it's like a one-upsmanship. I am so big. Another person says, I am so big. It's often the meetings, especially among competitors or rivals, it's more of an ego battle. You know, how big you are. But when devotees meet, they glorify each other. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is glorifying Ramananda. He said that that Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya knew that I would be very enriched. I would be elevated by associating with you. That's why he strongly insisted for my good that I should associate with you. And that's why I have come here to meet you. Ramananda didn't say, oh yes, I'm a great person. Yes, now I'll bless you that you have come to me. He did not say that. What did he say? He said, actually, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya is so kind that he treats me like a servant. And even when I am far away from him, he desires my well-being. And knowing that your association would bless me, so he has kindly arranged for you to come here. I am indebted to him and I am indebted to you. And then, when he said that, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, now that I have come on the South India too, now that I have met you, I am feeling fulfilled in my South India. Ramananda said that actually, I have lived in this place, my living in this place has become successful now that I have met you. So both of them were competing and glorifying each other. Then, as they were having these tears of ecstasy flowing down their cheeks and they were lavishly complimenting each other, they could sense some unrest. It's like if a class is going on and the class goes too long, then there is unrest in the audience. So a perceptive speaker can sense that. And I have sensed that now. So I'll complete in a few minutes. So Ramananda Rai and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, they were embracing each other. At the same time, they would sense the vibrations around them changing. The Brahmins and all the people, they became restless. What is going on? Now these people are embracing each other and he's talking something and you can't make head or tail out of it. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Ramananda, both of them looked at each other and they understood that this is not the right time. He said, we should talk, but we'll talk later. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu told him that I am staying here at the house of a Brahmin and there is a courtyard outside his house. So Ramananda said, I will come later in the evening. And I will meet you there and then I would like to hear from you. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, I want to hear from you. And then they parted. And then they met again that night. So what happened that night? That we will discuss in our future class. But one more significance of this discussion, which we will discuss more in our third class, that is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Krishna himself. But he is Krishna in the mood of Srimati Radharani. And so he is Krishna who wants to see what is the ecstasy that Radharani is relishing in my bhakti. And that's why Radha Bhava Yuti Suvalitam Naumi Krishna Swarupam. He is Krishna himself Krishna Swarupam, but he is Radha Bhava Dyuti Suvalikam. He has taken Radha Bhav, the emotion of Radharani, and Dyuti. Dyuti is the complexion. So the emotion and complexion of Radharani he has assumed. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Krishna in the mood of Radharani. And in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Leela, many of the associates of Srimati Radharani, the various gopis, they descend in a male form. And here, so the two primary associates of Srimati Radharani, the two principal gopis are Lalita and Vishakha. So among these, Vishakha is manifesting as Ramananda, and Lalita is manifesting as later Swarup Damodar Goswami. So now, so that means both Radharani is the greatest devotee of Krishna, and Lalita is also a great devotee of Krishna. Vishakha is also a great devotee of Krishna. And many of the pastimes that Radha and Krishna perform together, Vishakha plays a very special role in this pastime. Vishakha is especially known as the decorator of Radharani. She does the Shringar. She herself does, and she sometimes oversees the Shringar. And there is the pastime of Ramanandra also about his decorating others. That is, we'll discuss a little bit later. But suffice it to say that here, it was not just the meeting of Ramanandra and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, this was the meeting of Radha with a very intimate associate, that is Vishakha. And naturally, now both of them are devotees. So, when the two devotees meet each other, what will they discuss? They will discuss about the common object of love. They will discuss about their Lord. So, the discussion that will happen between Radharani and Vishakha, that is between Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Ramananda, that is going to be very esoteric, elevated discussion of Krishna. And it is in this exalted discussion of Krishna that the aesthetic and philosophical heights of Gaudiya Vaishnavism will be revealed. And these we will discuss in our future class. So today, I will summarize. I started by talking about how the Gaudiya Vaishnavism is not just a sectarian religious system, it is multi-level, polymorphic, bi-monotheism. And Gaudiya as an external means, it came from Gauda Desh, as internal meaning is that it is specially sweet, like the specially sweet jaggery of Bengal or Gauda Desh. There is sweetness of rasa that is brought to Vaishnavism by Gaudiya Vaishnavism. And then we further discussed about how the system of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared at a particular time, and this discussion with Ramananda and Prakashan Saraswati, this is in its own class. Chaitanya Charitamrita is a special book. It is an integration of biography and theology. It is a book of biography, a book of theology in the format of a biography, and it depicts 5 prominent conversations. Among them, two are debates with Prakashan Saraswati and Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. 2 are instruction. To whom? Rupa and Sanatana Goswami. And 1 is a discussion. And it's a discussion with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is primarily the hearer. That is with Ramananda. And that is our primary focus of discussion in this series. And then we discussed how this inversion of traditional social hierarchies is a defining characteristic of bhakti. So, this currently caste system is a part of the Indian tradition, but it is a deviation from the original Indian tradition, and within the Indian tradition itself there has been a reform to correct this deviation. And bhakti was primarily that expression of reform. And bhakti inverts all hierarchies. If somebody has devotion, then that person becomes greater than all others who might be greater by other markers of social hierarchy or social position. So we discussed various pastimes from the Srimad Bhagavatam for that purpose. And then we discussed this pastime, how it inverts. That normally sannyasis instruct grahasthas, normally brahmanas instruct shudras. But here Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, sannyasi brahmana receives instruction from a grahastha shudra. Why? Because Ramanandra has great devotion. And the whole purpose of social division was facilitation of individual growth. It was not discrimination at all. And in this particular pastime, we see that when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Ramanandra meet for the first time, their meeting bewilders everyone because it just doesn't fit into their intellectual conceptions. What is happening? And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he restrains himself and will continue Aristotle discussion later. This is the meeting of Radharani with her intimate associate Vishakha Devi. So thank you very much. Are there any questions you would like to ask? Yes, ma'am.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, talking about Gaudiya Vaishnavism, it is a sub-branch of the original Madhavacharya Sampradaya. So I want to know why was there branching in the first place from the original Madhavacharya?
So the Gaudiya Vaishnava tradition is a branching from the Madhava Sampradaya. So why was a branch needed? So yes, this is a technical subject and I'll try to answer as simply as possible. See, all the four Sampradayas come from God, ultimately through his exalted representation. So Krishna, Vishnu, they give knowledge to various persons, whether it is Brahma, the Brahma Madhava Gaudiya Sampradaya, or we have Lakshmi Devi through Yadashri Sampradaya. Like that, there are the four Sampradayas. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is himself God. So in that sense, when he gives knowledge, he can start his own Sampradaya. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he came in the mood of a devotee. So that's why he conformed with the tradition to a large extent and he himself took initiation. And he himself connected his teachings with the tradition. So, in principle, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu does not require any tradition because he is God. But in practice, he respected the tradition. So at that time, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he took initiation from the Madhva Sampradaya, which is called as the Tattvavadi Sampradaya. It's called Dvaitavad or Tattvavadi Sampradaya. Why? Tattvavad? Because that is the opposite of Mayavad. Mayavad means that actually everything that we see is Maya. And that our forms are Maya, even God's form is Maya. So this was strongly opposed by Madhvacharya's Tattvavadis. So if you see historically, it's when there was there's a plan of the Lord that the original Vedic scriptures have multi-level spirituality. So even people who can't avoid meditating, they are not told that you are exiled from spiritual levels. You can be on the slow path and you can come to spiritual level gradually. There is some concession for meditating in the Vedic literature. But a concession is not a recommendation. If a person has diabetes, the doctor says, avoid sugar. I can't live without sugar. I must eat sweets. Will I live? The doctor says, okay, take one sweet once a week. Now if the patient goes and says, the doctor told me to take one sweet once a week. That is not the instruction. That is not the recommendation. That is a concession. Like that, meditating is a concession given in the Vedic scriptures. It's not a recommendation or instruction. But some people put that concession and made that as a instruction. And they said no sacrifice can be performed without killing animals, without animal sacrifice. And animal sacrifice became rampant and the spiritual aspect was lost. So at that time, Buddha came and Buddha said, can't you see you're killing life? The Lord Vishnu himself came as Buddha. And he said, can't you see that you're killing life? What kind of spirituality is this? So, but the Vedas say this, just use your common sense. Forget the Vedas, can't you see that you're causing pain, you're killing? Avoid that. So Buddha basically taught basic morals, which is non-violence, detachment, simplicity. And because people had so misunderstood the Vedic scriptures that they could not have been explained at that time their correct understanding, so just put aside the Vedas, and therefore he did not talk about spiritual subject matter at all. Buddha's teachings are primarily non-theistic. He either talks about God, nor does he talk about the soul also much. So for 2500 years, Buddhists are still now puzzled that Buddha accepted reincarnation, but Buddha did not accept the soul. So how can you have reincarnation without soul? So actually, this is the paradox that Buddhism accepts reincarnation without soul, Christianity accepts soul without reincarnation. So, anyway, The point is that there was a plan of the Lord. So after Buddha, the Lord arranged Shiva to come as Shankaracharya. And Buddha had talked about Nirvana, Buddha had talked about Shunya. And Shankaracharya taught, okay, you are looking for Shunya, you are looking for peace, you are looking for silence. All that is taught in the Vedic literature also. And that is taught as the conception of Brahman. So, in a sense, Buddhism's Shunya and Advaitavad's Brahman, they are intellectual clones. They are conceptually the same, but the nomenclature is different. And in that way, Shankaracharya got people back into the Vedic fold. And then people are, but in the Vedas there is so much worship talked about it, don't bother about it. Ultimately there is one truth, there is one Brahman, focus on that Brahman. So the philosophy that he taught was called Advaitavad. And after that Ramanujacharya came. So if you see, within the Vedic teachings, there is the pendulum moving towards one extreme, that is oneness, Advaitavad. And then Ramanujacharya came and he taught what is called Vishishta Advaitavad. He came in the 11th century and said, yes, everything is one. But there is a difference. Everything is not God. There is God and there are things connected with God. So his defining metaphor was that just as there is a soul and there is a body. So similarly, God is the soul and the whole world is the body. That was his defining metaphor. And so he says, yes, there is oneness, but there is difference also. Then, after that, we have Madhvacharya. Madhvacharya took the pendulum, had gone towards oneness. It came to a slightly balanced state in Vishishta Advaitavad. And Madhvacharya took it to the other extreme. His philosophy is Dvaitavad. What oneness? See, there are basically, Upanishads talk about three tattvas. There is Jagdish, Jiva and Jagat. This is alliteration of Jav. Jagdish is God, Jiva is the soul and Jagat is the universe. Jagat is the material world. So he said, where is oneness? He says, Jiva and Jagdish are different. Jagat and Jagdish are different. Jagat and Jiva is different. One Jiva and other Jiva is different. And the elements in Jagat are also different. So he talked about Pancham Bhed. There is no Advaita, there is Dvaita. And he strongly refuted Advaita. And when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came, he talked about, yes, there is Achintya Bheda Bhed. There is oneness and there is difference. So Jiva and Jagat, they are one with the Lord in the sense that there is energies. But they are not absolutely one with him. There is Bhed and Abhed. There is difference and oneness. So in that sense, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu brought the pendulum back to the central point in a more evolved understanding. At the same time, the influence of Advaitavad was very strong, even in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's times. And the sampradaya that most strongly refuted Advaitavad was Dvaitavad. So, in terms of institutional affiliation, the Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took initiation in the Tattvavada Sampradaya so that he could strongly refute Advaitavad. But in terms of doctrine, see, there is the institution and there is its doctrine. So in terms of institution, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu affiliated with the Madhva Sampradaya. But in terms of doctrine, there is a program of historical evolution that was happening. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanted to give the highest revelation. So therefore, he affiliated with the Advaita Sampradaya, but he gave a higher understanding. So in that sense, this is what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu teaches is related with Madhvacharya's teachings, but it's the further development of his teachings, the further revelation. And so in that sense, we could say it's a branch of Gaudiya, a branch of the Madhva Sampradaya. But it's not just like any other branch that might be there, because it is in this branch, it was started by the Supreme Lord himself descending, and Supreme Lord who came and gave a higher revelation. So there are differences subtly between the various sampradayas, but on defining truths, all the sampradayas agree. Srila Prabhupada writes in a purport that on three things: the eternality of Ishwar, that God is the eternal supreme being; the eternal subordination of the jiva, the soul is eternally the servant and devotee of God, the soul will never become God; and the eternality of bhakti. It is not that we practice bhakti now so that we will go to mukti and we will give up bhakti. So God is eternal, jiva is eternal, and the bhakti between jiva and God is eternal. On these three truths, all the four sampradayas agree. But on the various levels within bhakti, on the various rasas that are relevant within bhakti, on the special mood that God manifests, in this there are some differences. In these things, Gaudiya Vaishnava tradition gives a deeper revelation. So there is, in that sense, not a branch that is a rupture, but a branch that is a development. Gaudiya Vaishnavism is in that way, the Gaudiya Sampradaya is a branch which is a further evolution or development of the basic teachings that are given in the Madhva Sampradaya. Does that answer your question? Any other questions?
So just following up on that, sometimes it looks like, when we look back, how there's this projection of from Dvaita to Advaita and then how Chaitanya came. So sometimes, we find it as a bit contradictory, why Krishna played in a way so that people are getting on different directions rather than just coming to Vaishnavism. So how are we facing that?
So the question is that when we see there are different teachers who are sent by God only and they teach different things and people go off in different directions. So why is it like that? Why does God do different teachings like this? See, one of the fundamental features of the Vedic literature is that it offers what in today's language we could call user-friendly spirituality. So user-friendly spirituality means that it recognizes that different people are on different natures, different orientations, different levels of consciousness, different stages on their spiritual evolution. And so, all of them cannot take only one path. That's why there are various devatas. And worshipping them is also scripture. It may not be the highest in scripture, but it is also within the house of scripture. So the Vedic idea is that anybody who is on the spiritual path, in some way or the other, anybody who is pursuing something higher than the basic bodily pursuit, basic materialistic life, that anything higher is good. And how much higher a person can go, that will vary according to time and circumstance. So if you look at the Abrahamic religions, they have the idea, this is one conception of God, this is one messenger of God, this is one holy book. If you accept this, you will be liberated. If you reject this, you are going to go to hell forever. So this portrays the path to God as very narrow. And if God is unlimited, why should the path to Him be so rigidly limited? God manifests His mercy in many ways. And not just in many ways, but to many degrees. So some paths to God take people up to a particular level. They are not taken all the way. Some paths may take them. So for example, the path of Karma Kant. It involves worship of the Devatas. And that also is good. Because people are at least accepting the existence of some higher being. And by that, they are rising above just gross materialism. And they are evolving in their consciousness. It may take time. But they are on the progressive path. Similarly, Jnana Marga. And similarly, impersonalism is also not wrong. Impersonalism is also a valid realization. In fact, impersonalism is a very exalted realization. We think of impersonalism as very bad. But it's not. It's a very exalted realization. In the Bhagavatam, Shamik Rishi is described as an impersonalist. And he was a great sage. Parikshit Maharaj has been offered obeisance to him. And of course, he did not offer enough, that the whole issue. But the point is, Shamik Rishi is considered impersonalist. And he is not considered anything bad. Mayavad the problem with it is, there are various paths and they move forward, they take people to various levels up. The problem comes when something which is at the intermediate level is thought of as the highest. And a bigger problem comes when the intermediate is not only thought as the highest is made as lower than the intermediate. So, there is impersonalism and there is Mayavad. They are two very different things. Impersonalism is that God has an impersonal feature and I am attracted to that impersonal feature and I want to go there. That is not offensive. But Mayavad is God has an impersonal feature, that is the highest feature, and the personal aspect of God is just a temporary illusion. It is a convenient fiction that people can use for meditating on, ultimately to realize the impersonal love. So this is what is the problem. So impersonal is a valid realization. The worship of devatas is a valid form of worship. So the Vedic path offers various modes of elevation for people, so they can take spirituality at their pace and move onwards gradually. So Nitya